we thought it would be useful for us to focus on the main issues which we've written our manifesto upon. And education, of course, is very close to this government's central platform because we believe so much in it. And I wanted to give a personal perspective, and I thought for the purpose of this, what I feel about education, what's our general direction rather than the specifics. And the specifics we can fill in for you, and I'll give some numbers, but more than just a dictate of all the programs, how much money we're going to spend, which we can give you. It's more the approach. I wanted to start off by saying I believe very deeply in education for a variety of reasons, many personal ones in terms of what education has done for my own life. And I shared some of it during Committee of Supply in terms of social mobility. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little child on a very exciting trip. If you ask me whether 40, 50 years ago, well, not 50, I'm only 52, so 40-odd years ago, whether I thought that one day, from a 3-room flat that I would end up in one of top cancer centers and training with first-rate minds and leading surgeons, and then finally, entering government and talking to university presidents and seeing their education systems and discussing notes with education ministers. It's a great trip, and in a sense, it reflects what Singapore has come through, what education can do, how strong education can uplift individuals as well as a country. So it's very deep belief of mine that it can enable dreams to be met, talents to bloom. For our approach, I would say that for the MOE, we sort of relooked our overall approach when we had the basic aspects of literacy, numeracy, more or less within a good system, which Dr. Goh Keng Swee started in the 80s. And 10 to 15 years ago, we started relooking it. When I came into the ministry, I thought it was important again to refresh it. And we started by talking to teachers and students and principals. We spent a few months just talking, met them, arranged teas with them, asked them very probing questions. And we started by listening to Singaporeans about when we asked them, what do you want the education system to be? Never mind what we've done or what we've gone, tell me what do you think we should do. Because we wanted to sort of understand the deeper, the aspirations, and also the fears for the children. We listened intently to them, and we also spoke to business leaders and concerned Singaporeans. So what they told us was, parents said they were really concerned about that kids were pressured. Kids were not growing up as kids. They had to struggle to get with their kids, and they said, well, I can do maths in primary 1, primary 2, but by primary 3, some said primary 3, some said primary 4, but by the time they said primary 5, most of them said, I can't do the maths that my children do. So, and then, they said, well, then we worry about tuition. But what they were really concerned about in the subtext was, if my child doesn't get into the popular school, if they don't meet the right teachers, if we don't give them tuition, will they be disadvantaged? Will they be set so far back that they can never catch up? It was really an issue about opportunities. Am I starting my child on a very low trajectory that he can never realize his dreams? So that was one set. What if my child was not academically gifted or talented? Can his other potentials be fulfilled in this education system? Would the system develop, recognize these talents? Then we spoke to teachers. So parents said it to us. And teachers said to us, we believe in holistic education. We believe that you should develop the whole child. But sometimes it seems as if the system, parents, even the students themselves, all they care about are grades and how well they do in exams. So no matter how much we try, at the end of it, we know we are only measured by a single yardstick. Of course, when we spoke to students, they had the same concern. They said, I'm good in this, but again, when I go home or at school, I feel only myself as a success if I succeed in one narrow domain. The sum of it was, what everyone was saying was, yes, grades do matter, but it cannot overshadow everything. And that what should also count should be developed, because success in life depends more on grades. As all of us know, we've got so many stories to tell us that there are many pathways. So we wanted a system basically that reflected this. We wanted to broaden the system so that you have diverse talents, that you can meet it, that a child grows. So the first part of listening brought us to a point where we said, well, we know what the education system should be. We know what Singaporeans want to be. So how do we do it? I mean, that's what government is for. And we realized that, I'm talking about schools, primary schools and secondary schools. I'll talk about tertiary institutions later. The key is schools. We cannot be measured by how many people can get into a nationally popular primary school, whether it's RGS, Raffles Primary, Nanyang, Rosyth, because there will be only so many limited nationally popular schools. You've got to create a system where across the island, it may not have the reputation of being the best, but parents feel that, okay, this school my child thrives in. I think parents are realistic, and I'm beginning to see that happen. I visit one school every other week across the island, and I was really happy when a parent said to me, I like this school because the teacher is patient with my child. That was the only thing that sold her. This teacher is patient with my child. Another one said, I went on a walkabout, and she lives in Toa Payoh, and she sends the child in to Woodlands. I said, why do you go to Woodlands? Oh, because it's a primary school, because he likes golf, and there's a golfing program there. So I looked at her and said, okay, but does he mind taking the bus? It doesn't matter, he just goes there. So across, I think we're getting to develop it, but the key is really good schools, which basically means better teachers. So we've ramped that up from about 26,000, 2006, to about 31,000 now. It'll go up to about 33,000 in the next few years. It's a significant ramp up. And not only that, not more teachers, but we feel that you have to move towards all graduate workforce, because we are realistic. Parents and teachers themselves and the students have higher expectations. And you just need that certain level where you take from the top third. So now 80% are graduates. But even that's not enough. We decided that we wanted to not to bring down the pupil-teacher ratio, which is a better measure of capacity that the teachers can give to students. So I'll give you some figures. For primary schools, it's now 19 pupils to one teacher. You notice in every school, there are 19 pupils to one teacher. In secondary school, it's 16. This is a better system because if you go to a school and leave it to professionals, some of them take bigger classes for more difficult subjects or for easier topics, or students who they think are quicker, sometimes even 30. I've seen some schools that merge into 60. On the other hand, they free up resources for classes as small as 5, even 3 for learning support programs when they first start. And I've seen this in primary 1 and primary 2. When we go there, this teacher completely just deployed for a learning support program, teaching 4 or 5 students every day in just groups, and continuing that for 2 years, and some even stretching on to 3 years. So the resources are deployed. So the primary school is less than 20, for secondary school is about 17. But even that was not enough. So we said, the officials told me, we want to move towards single session primary schools. That will free up resources, give us time for CCA, have CCA within curriculum time, and I have more space rather than, a whole session waiting to take over the class. That meant building more schools, more teachers. So we says, well, we have to start a new track, let's call it the Allied Educator track, to help teachers free up some of the work. And I'm happy to say that that's taken off very, very well. And we're going to recruit nearly about 3,000 by 2016. Allied educators, and they are doing wonderful work. I visited them in schools. They either do behavioral, some of them are specially trained for special needs, some of them trained for learning disabilities, and they help the teacher free up time so that the teacher can then teach while some of the aspects are taken care of by this. Some of them also are discipline issues which the allied educator can help. The basic approach now is that we want to make the child, we have a capacity to make the child a more student-centric system, which means that you have to have a system which caters to the needs and the aptitude of the child. We don't believe that children are the same. They're just not all academically gifted, not all physically gifted, not all musically gifted. So how do you make the child the center of your teaching? And the only way to do that is to have teachers who can customize your program towards the child. But in order to do that, you need good teachers, passionate teachers, well-trained teachers, which means that a lot of it will have to be ground up. So that's why we started the academies. And I'm very excited about one of the recent programs where NAFA tied up with RCM. Now, let me tell you why. Not only for the institution, but that's where we are going to train the bulk of our music teachers. Full-time, who are deployed full-time, because we believe very much about the power of music in education. To raise that, I remember when I visit schools, I remember there was one school in Japan or Korea, or both, where they use music to bring out the best in a child. There was a preschool in China that I saw where they believe, the philosophy is that every child, no matter who you send to, can be taught to play the piano in those 2 years. So it's set up with 20 piano rooms and the child is learning that. That's the approach. I'm not saying that all of us should go that way, but it's an approach which shows that you can use music to develop certain aspects of a child. So we'll have a pipeline of music teachers coming. I think we're going to train a few hundred over the next few years through this pipeline. Also fully deployed physical education teachers trained in NIE, degree holders, who can now use physical education as another tool to build up all the skill sets that we want. And then you have the Academy of Teachers, English language institutes, whether it's the mother tongue or English language. Teachers, buildings. You need schools with good facilities. There'll be a massive building program, and it's a continuing program. We've commenced Prime for 33 more schools in the last 5 years. It takes time. I have to be honest. It takes time. Every time we do a Prime, it takes a few years as a disruption, so we can't accelerate this because schools have to go on. We've done 33 schools in the last 5 years, which means that since 1998, we've covered 255 schools. I'm seeing some of the classrooms for Primary 1. I blogged about it. Very, very exciting. L-shaped rooms. Not the usual cluster rooms. Very bright colors, number one. The color schemes are different. The tables are different. They are modular so that you can change them around. The big books, because for our English program, they read together. And the way they stack the books, so the whole classrooms are transformed. And then a reading corner where Primary 1 and Primary 2 children can go on their own, time out, and just start reading on their own. So the classrooms are also beginning to fit what we want to teach. You know about the indoor sports hall and the synthetic turfs for all schools. We've already announced that. So that shows our focus on where we want education to head, and performing arts studios as well. we made a lot of announcements about local income, how much we topped up for EduSave funds. The figure's about 154 million this year, financial assistance schemes. But basically the philosophy is no child will deny a good quality education because he or she cannot afford it. There are international funds. Most of the schools say that the children will have 1 or 2 international trips, all the students within the primary school, and we're using the international funds and opportunity funds to do that. The third limb is really creating pathways. If children are different, where are the paths? You have teachers, you have schools. So many of you have heard of Northlight, Assumption Pathway. We have the new specialized independent schools in sports, maths, arts, applied learning, the integrated program, and new subjects in secondary schools. There are new subjects now for O levels: computer science, drama, economics, physical education, creative 3D animation. So we're looking to enhance the menu of O level subject so that students can start early honing their skills. PM talked about the university, polytechnic and IT sector. I don't want to dwell too much on that, but I would say that IT is indeed an exciting sector that we've made a breakthrough. We are now the world leader in vocational institute. We have more requests to visits than we can sometimes accommodate. We have many requests to repeat IT worldwide, but we tell them we don't have the people. So we just give them advice. I think it's really given hope, but what I'm really excited about IT about is that it's given our students, that group of students, renewed confidence. I see them, they go in there, and one of them told me, this was, you remember a few years ago when Jack Neo did the movie It's the End. And we had a lot of debate, and there was sort of the fear was whether these students in IT would be stigmatized. So I visited them, and that was back when I was in MOE before I left and then came back again. And I wanted to have an honest feel from them. I says, are you demoralized in IT? Do you feel that it's the end for you? Do you feel stigmatized? And the student candidly smiled confidently and said, no. I said, why? So he said, well, every year for the last few years, in every exam I'm failing. I get my exam paper and I sense failure. First time I stepped into IT was the first time I didn't feel like a failure. So I thought, wow, okay, this is the right thing to do. And the practical hands-on, I visited the last one. I don't know how many of you were at IT, Chua Chu Kang. It takes 2 years to be a pastry chef. I didn't realize that, to get IT certificate in pastry chef, and they're happily making, they tell me all their chocolate they're making, the cookies. I tell them to watch their weight because, when they do the courses, they also, have to taste it. But they're tying up with Institute Paul Bocuse or one of these, and they are really excited. Coffee bars and real-life applications, and these students are on their way and very confident, so it's very uplifting. Polytechnics, we made a breakthrough with, I think, the type of education and also with SIT. The fact that we could attract a stable of top-class universities shows how correct it was to focus on our polytechnics. And the offerings now of Yale, MIT, with Duke, tells us something. People are watching us in this tertiary institute and wondering, and Imperial College for the medical school with NTU as well, are wondering why is it that Singapore suddenly has its lion's share of top-class world institutions. It's not a given. When we planned this, when we thought about this a few years ago, we didn't know whether we could attract even one institution. It started with Duke, and then now we have a stable of about 10, including SIT partners. As I mentioned, the Yale, the Duke, the MIT, but for the SIT, Technical University of Munich, the Culinary Institute, DigiJapan, they're all top-class institutions. And they tell us they come here because of the branding. They feel that we are ahead, and I think it gives us wonderful opportunities for our students to be able to just have the best of the world, but still in Singapore. So I'm excited about that sector as well. Preschool, we need to do more. We brought it down from those who are not attending to about 1.1% from about 5%. We spent about 150 million in the last 5 years, and we're going to spend about double that, 300 million in the next 5 years, focusing on teachers. I want to end up with just children with special needs. This is an area that we want to pay more attention to, and you remember that we increased. It used to stop at 18, now we've gone up to 21 years for SPED students so that they can take the O and N levels, and then also we've increased the EduSave Pupils Fund. Basically, we spent in the last 5 years about $500 million supporting the SPED students, building better schools, but both this sector and the preschool sector will need more work. We will have to just find ways to develop that. But I think I'm excited that in the next 5 to 10 years, if we continue building this sector, and education is a very long-term venture. I don't want to overpromise. We have to still work very hard, but you will see changes, not even maybe in the 5 years, but in the 10 years, I think that we'll have truly one of the best education systems that students can have opportunities to. And I think that this sector is one of the areas that is very prized. Education sector is something that you build, takes a long time to build. It's not amenable to sloganeering or quick fixes. But I think 20, 30 years of effort have really paid off. And I think it's one of the sectors that our students can really benefit from. So we are quite excited about our developments. I think for the details, Winnie, you can distribute in terms of what we put here for the press. But I'm open to questions on education or on other aspects that you want to talk about related to this. Thank you.